How's it going, everybody? Lampini here again, and today we are going to be reviewing Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. So can you guys believe it? We're almost at the midway point of the season. With 18 weeks of NFL football, we are almost at Week 9, the midway point. We're at Week 7 now, and we're starting to kind of see things get interesting, get spicy. So without further ado, we're going to talk about how I did last week with my predictions. I was 8-7 with my predictions last week. I got all the primetime games wrong, which I find kind of interesting. The Giants beat the Eagles, big surprise there. The Chiefs beat the Lions, not too much of a surprise there. That could have gone either way. The Falcons beat the Bills, big surprise. And then the Bears beat the Commanders. I mean, that's kind of a mild surprise. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get into it. For the season, I am 57, 35, and 1. So I'm still doing pretty good with my predictions. Hopefully I do a little bit better than 8-7 this time around, though. Hopefully getting those numbers up. So without further ado, let's kick things off with Thursday Night Football. So for Thursday night, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off a good win against the Browns, and the Bengals are coming off of a bad loss against the Green Bay Packers. The Steelers, pretty much the AFC North is their division to win, basically. You have the 2-3 Bengals, you have the 1-5 Ravens, and the 1-5 Browns. Like they are in complete control here. They have moved to 4-1, and they look good. But they have a very easy schedule so far, so they haven't really been tested yet at all. It's kind of like how every single Steelers season starts. They start out very strong, and they fade during the end of the season, and then they get bounced in the playoffs. So it remains to be seen if having Aaron Rodgers playing some good football is going to allow them to change that. Incidentally, Aaron Rodgers was 21 of 30 for 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 115.3 passer rating. So another great game by Aaron Rodgers. And then DK Metcalf, 4 receptions and 95 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf doing a great job on his new team. He's a true wide receiver one there. Having Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball is clearly paying dividends for him. As for the Bengals, the pain still continues. This time, they have signed Joe Flacco from the Cleveland Browns, who admittedly had a pretty good game for them. He was 29 of 45 for 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a 90.9 passer rating. Joe Flacco, very known for throwing interceptions, so that's a very good stat there by Joe Flacco. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 94 yards, and a touchdown. He had another good game there. The Bengals haven't won ever since Joe Burrow's been on the field, and they do not look like they're going to win anytime soon. It's been a tough couple games for the Bengals. Their season is pretty much lost. It's at home, and it's a divisional round matchup, but I don't think the Bengals are a good enough team to cause the upset here against the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers. I think they're going to win. They're going to improve to 5-1. They're pretty unimpressive 5-1, honestly, again, because they haven't really faced a lot of tough teams. You're looking at it, they beat the Browns, the Bengals this week, and then last week they beat the Vikings, which is probably one of the tougher teams they've had to face. I don't really know. They haven't really been tested yet, but it remains to be seen. We'll see how they do near the end of the year. If they falter off like they have in previous seasons, or if they're going to stay strong, it remains to be seen. The Steelers are having a pretty typical Steelers season that they've had in the last 5-6 years, so I'm going with the Steelers. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a London game. The Jaguars lost out to the Seattle Seahawks. They're now 4-2. They've still been playing some pretty good football, though. As for the Rams, they beat a very weak Ravens team 17-3. The game was actually a lot closer than that going into the first half. It was actually 3-3 before the Rams scored 14 points in the third quarter. So the game was a lot more out of reach seeming than it appeared to be based on the final score. It actually was a lot closer of a game as the game had gone, but Rams still look very good. Matthew Stafford, 17 26, 181 yards and a touchdown, 98.4 passer rating. He's continuing his solid season. He might get some MVP votes right now. He really needs to go on a heater if he's going to make it to the MVP, though. Who knows? As for the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence had a good game, 27 42 for 258 yards and 2 touchdowns and 97.1 passer rating. So that's another good game by Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars look good, man. Outside of a touchdown drive in the first quarter, though, and a missed field goal, their offense got very little done in their game against the Colts. And it was 20-6 going into the fourth quarter, so the score was a lot closer than they made it seem. The Colts really dominated this game. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, though, because they went against a very good team. Between these two, though, I am going to go with the Rams. There's no home field advantage here because it's a London game, and I think the Rams are a better team on paper. They have more talent. Matt Stafford's a better quarterback. Sean McVay's a better head coach. I'm going with the Rams on that one. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. If I've learned anything from this Sunday night game with the Chiefs against the Lions, is that the Chiefs are officially back. They had a couple slow weeks going on. They were 0-2. They're now up to 3-3. So they've been 3-1 the last 4 weeks. The Chiefs have righted the ship, and their offense is looking very, very strong to complement their defense, which was already strong to begin with. Patrick Mahomes was 22 of 30 for 257 yards and 3 touchdowns, a 132 passer rating. That's typical Patrick Mahomes numbers. He leads the league. He leads his team in rushing. He's slowly climbing into the MVP discussion, I'd say, considering he threw 4 touchdowns against the Ravens. He's thrown 3 here. He's looking strong. He's looking very good. And like I said, he's cementing himself a case for a 3rd MVP. As for the Raiders, they beat a really weak Titans team. I actually went with the Titans last week. I thought they were going to be able to upset the Raiders because the Raiders have looked so bad these last couple weeks. But they managed to get the upset. Geno Smith only threw 1 interception in this game, which was good. He still leads the league in interceptions, though. It's a divisional round matchup, so you know it could go either way. But I am going to go with the Chiefs. While the Raiders do play the Chiefs very tough, I think the Chiefs have really hit their stride, and I think they're going to really, really crush the Raiders, especially it being at home, a 1 p.m. game, very little pressure. I think they're going to win. They're going to improve to 4-3. And as for the Chargers and Broncos, they need to be careful because the Chiefs are back, and they want their divisional crown back. I'm going with the Chiefs. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins at the Cleveland Browns. This is a tank bowl game. Both teams are 1-5. Neither team has looked particularly good. I would say that the Dolphins offense has still looked pretty decently. They scored 27 points against the Chargers, which was pretty good. Tua Tagovailoa was 21 of 32 for 205 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions though, 54.8 passer rating. Tua is not much long for this world in the NFL. I would describe Tua as an example of a quarterback where a franchise backs the wrong horse, so to speak. What that means is they signed him to a big contract, but he's not their guy. Another example I could give is like Kyler Murray. They signed him to a long-term contract, but he hasn't proven to be anything more than just kind of an average mid-quarterback, right? And I think Tua Tagovailoa is in the same conversation. Devon Achane had a great game. 16 carries, 128 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, a 49-yard rushing touchdown was a big highlight for the game. The Dolphins played well. They just came up short against the Chargers, who won, and they managed to get it done in the 4th quarter. As for the Browns, we didn't learn anything new about the Browns again. They are a terrible team. They got beat up by Big Brother and the Steelers. I mean, I don't know how much more I can say about the Browns. They're a terrible team. They will always be a terrible team. They had Baker Mayfield there for those couple years to try and get them out of irrelevancy. They got in their own way and self-sabotage, and now they're back to being a bottom feeder. I mean, what else is new with the Browns? Dylan Gabriel was 29 of 52 for 221 yards, a 66.3 passer rating. I do think we are going to see Shedeur Sanders at some point in the season because Dylan Gabriel is not really lighting up anything right now. He doesn't have a lot to work with, sure, but the Browns are going to look for some kind of spark. This is a lost season for them. They're just going to try and see what works. So I think Shedeur Sanders is going to start at some point. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, though. The Browns' defensive front with Myles Garrett is their big strong point, so maybe that'll pressure Tua to throw some interceptions, although I'm not too sure that's going to happen. So I am going with the Dolphins. I think they're going to win. They're just going to outscore the Browns, to put it simply. They're going to win. Next up, we have the New England Patriots at the Tennessee Titans. If there's one team that has really hit their stride the last couple weeks, it's the New England Patriots. They're actually first in the division right now after Buffalo lost to the Falcons on Monday night, and the Patriots seem to have reloaded, and they seem to be back. Drake May was 18 of 26 for 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 140 passer rating. A 140 passer rating. I saw a stat that said that Drake May is the first Patriots quarterback since Tom Brady to throw for like 3+ touchdowns in multiple games, in like 3 straight games or something like that. He's doing very, very well. He's on his way to a Pro Bowl caliber season. Not quite an MVP caliber season, but I mean, he's really coming into his own. Never underestimate what a good head coach can do for a team. I think Mike Vrabel is a top 5 head coach in the league. I think he's one of these guys that changes culture, right? And I think he's done that with the Patriots. They are slowly approaching getting back to being the dominant team. It took them a few years after the Brady and Belichick transition, but they have reestablished themselves very, very well under Drake May's leadership. And they're going to wipe the floor with the Titans. I mean, the fact that the Titans lost to the Raiders says a lot to me because the Raiders have been really pitiful recently. I'm going with the Patriots. I think they're going to mop the floor with the Titans. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers at the New York Jets. You would think that this is a bit of a tank bowl situation going on here, but the Panthers are actually 3-3, and they're 3-0 in their division. And they were on a 2-game winning streak after Rico Dowdle put up 239 yards from scrimmage. 30 carries for 183 yards. Very impressive, averaging 6 yards a carry off of 30 carries. That's very, very impressive. That's a huge workload for a running back. Gaining 183 yards rushing is incredible as well. He also caught a receiving touchdown as well, bringing his total, like I said, up to 239 total yards from scrimmage. He had back-to-back 200 scrimmage yard seasons. Rico Dowdle coming out of nowhere here. Very impressive. Bryce Young, 17 of 25 for 199 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception for 114.8 passer rating. What the Panthers offense was able to do against the Dallas defense gives me a lot of hope for what the Commanders can do next week. They really crushed them. It's going to be a shootout between the Cowboys and the Commanders. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But as for the Jets, it really doesn't get any worse for the Jets. They are 0-6, and this was their worst performance of the season by far, and that's really saying something. Justin Fields was negative 10 yards passing, and I think they're at a situation now where the Jets team has just kind of given up already. I think they will win a game, but I think it's just going to be like a 1-16, 2-15 type season. I don't think they're going to go winless. They fought really hard early on in the season, but like it's just going from bad to worse here. And poor Aaron Glenn, I don't think he's a bad head coach, but like the Jets are just collapsing. I don't know what it is about the Jets, but it was a terrible game. And the Broncos didn't even put that much of a beating on them. The Jets were in the lead at one point, but they still lost. So I'm going with the Panthers. They're going to improve to 4-3, and they're gaining a lot of momentum. I would watch out for the Panthers because right now, who's the lead in that division? Well, Tampa's the lead in that division, but don't be surprised if the Panthers come for a wild card spot because they're doing very well. And they could improve to 4-3 with this. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Chicago Bears. The Bears beat the Commanders on Monday night, and I have a lot to say about this game. From the Commanders' side, you're not going to win a lot of games if you have 3 turnovers. The Bears were gifted that game based on the Jaden Daniels fumble. It was raining, the ball was wet. I'm not going to make excuses, but Jaden Daniels fumbled the handoff to Corey Krosky-Merritt. The Bears got the ball at basically midfield, which meant that they only had to really go 20 or 30 yards to get into field goal range to kick that game-winning field goal that caused them to win. It slipped between our fingers quite literally. That's a game the Commanders should have won, but there's nothing you can really do about it now. That was a big win for the Bears. They are now 2-2. They can improve to 3-2 with this one. Again, we haven't learned anything really new about the Saints. Spencer Rattler looks like a pretty decent quarterback. He hasn't really made a lot of mistakes, and the Saints haven't lost because of him. So he might win the starting job next year, who knows? But there's not a lot of excitement going on with the Saints. This is a lost year for them. I'm going with the Bears. They're going to have an easy win at home against the Saints, and the NFC is getting very, very competitive. Next week, I'm going to start doing the playoff predictions, and boy, is this getting interesting. It is very, very close. I'm going with the Bears. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Minnesota Vikings. This game may not be so clear-cut. The Vikings are coming off a bye at home, beating the Browns. They're a tough team to beat, and the Eagles have dropped 2 straight. This was a bad loss to the Giants. I watched it Thursday. Their offense couldn't get anything going, and their defense was bending and breaking to Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboot, 2 rookies. Now, can the Eagles right the ship? I'm sure they'll be able to, but 4 straight tush pushes was very concerning for me in the goal line. The more the Eagles rely on the tush push tells me that they don't have much else outside of that. And I think that's a serious problem. Yes, the tush push is dominant, and it's getting them scores, it's getting them first downs, it's getting them touchdowns, but they can't keep relying on it like this. Jalen Hurts' downfield passing has been very, very poor, and if they lose, I think it's officially time to go into panic mode if the Eagles lose to the Vikings. If they lose and drop 3 straight, then I think it's time to panic, and we might be looking at a collapse kind of similar to what happened in 2023 when they were 9-1 and they finished 10-7 and lost in the first round in the playoffs. And the Commanders are right on their heels too. It would have been great if the Commanders won. They would be first place in the division, but the Commanders are right on their heels. An Eagles loss and a Commanders win puts the Commanders first place in the division. So this is a must win for the Eagles. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I've bet against the Eagles incorrectly 3 separate times that they were going to lose. Then I said they were going to win against the Giants, and then they lost. I'm betting against them. I'm going to go for the Vikings. I think they're going to win. Philly is a minus 2.5 point favorite, but I don't know. They really need to right the ship because Saquon hasn't gotten much work. A.J. Brown hasn't gotten much work. Devonta Smith hasn't gotten much work. Like, their offense just has not gotten a lot going. Jalen Hurts hasn't looked good. They've over-relied on the tush push. Like, I see a lot of concerns, and I think it's officially time to start panic mode if they lose to the Vikings. So I'm going to go with the Vikings. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts at the Los Angeles Chargers. It's the Phillip Rivers Bowl. The Colts have looked like one of the most impressive teams in the NFL right now, and they have a potential Offensive Player of the Year candidate in Jonathan Taylor. Daniel Jones was 22 of 30 for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, a 101 passer rating. Great game there by Daniel Jones. And then Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries for 123 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 5.9 yards a carry. Another great game by Jonathan Taylor. The Colts all around have been doing fantastic. It was a close game against the Cardinals. They won 31-27. The Cardinals put up a very good fight against them, but ultimately the Colts did win like a good team should. And the same kind of goes for the Chargers as well. They beat the Dolphins 29-27. They won at the last second as well. Justin Herbert was 29 of 38 for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 112 passer rating. Both quarterbacks played well. This is the first 4 p.m. slate game, and if the Commanders weren't playing, I'd try and watch this one because this should be a very exciting game with a lot of fireworks. The Colts are operating on all cylinders. They have a winning formula, running it with Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones being an extremely efficient game manager. He's what Sam Darnold was last year, a somewhat failed quarterback that's been given new life on a new team, and he's really been thriving. Anthony Richardson, incredibly irrelevant now. It seems like the Colts have their guy. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs against more seasoned playoff teams like the Chiefs and Bills and all those guys. It's going to be a tough game. I'm going to go with the Colts, though. I think the Colts have just looked better. The Chargers lost to us. They've appeared vulnerable. They barely beat the Dolphins. I think the Cardinals are better than the Dolphins, so the Colts barely beating the Cardinals is not as bad as the Chargers barely beating the Dolphins, so I'm going with the Colts on this one. I think they're going to win. Next up, we have the New York Giants at the Denver Broncos. 2 teams that their records don't reflect kind of the momentum that's going with the team. The Giants had back-to-back wins ever since Jackson Dart started. He's injected new life into this team. He was 17 of 25, 195 yards, a touchdown, a 104.6 passer rating. And then Cam Scatabo also injecting life into this team. 19 carries, 98 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. They really wiped the floor with the Eagles. Now, it was a short week for the Eagles coming on the road against a divisional round opponent. That is kind of a recipe for an upset. It's hard to come in on a short week on the road, and you play your divisional opponent twice a year, so they kind of know how to face you. They know your weaknesses better than other teams. But still, I mean, the Giants ran Cam Scatabo down their throat, and Jackson Dart did great as well. He also added 58 rushing yards on the ground as well. Jackson Dart did it with a rushing touchdown to boot. As for the Broncos, they looked pretty mediocre in victory against the Jets. It was 10-9 at one point. It was nothing but field goals. The Broncos gave up a safety in the end zone, which made it 10-11. This is the negative 10 net passing yard Justin Fields that had the lead over the Broncos. The Broncos defense did well. They sacked Justin Fields 9 times, but other than that, not too much else was going on. Bo Nix was 19 of 30 for 174 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, he did all right, but their offense looked very, very sluggish. And this is a game that the Broncos really need to win because the Chiefs are looking like their old selves. These last couple games, the Chiefs have not looked like the fluky 2024 Chiefs that won all these close one-score games. They're looking like the dominant 2022 Chiefs. The 2022 Chiefs had the number 1 offense in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes was MVP. They crushed people in the playoffs, and they won in the Super Bowl. That's probably one of the more dominant Chiefs teams in the Chiefs dynasty from beginning to end, and they're starting to look like that again. So the point is, the Broncos need to win this game to get to 5-2 to maintain that first place spot. And it's games like this where they need to win, and they need to stay the course there. So I'm going with the Broncos. They're at home. They should beat the Giants. But if the Giants win, the Broncos are going to be in trouble. And not only that, the NFC East is going to be in trouble because the Giants are coming. All right, finally, we get to talk about the Washington Commanders as they face off against the Dallas Cowboys. This is a huge rivalry game. The Cowboys are 2-1, and the Commanders are 3-3. I talked a little bit about their loss to the Bears. I'm going to go a little bit more detail here. 2 turnovers, back-to-back possessions in the first quarter was terrible, and the Bears got 13 points off of it, or they got 10 points off of it, rather. Now, to Washington's credit, throughout the game, their offense was moving the ball extremely well. Their offense looked great, and they came back and got the lead back. So that was really impressive. Their defense could have been better, obviously. Their defense was never their strong suit. What their defense did do is they did cause stops. They didn't cause turnovers, but they didn't cause stops. They stopped the Bears on 4th down, which is very good. The Commanders pretty much did everything they needed to do to win. Jane Daniels just fumbled. It's as simple as that. If Jane Daniels doesn't fumble in the 4th quarter and it's 3rd and 1 and he hands that ball off to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, they probably get a 1st down. They probably run out the clock and they probably win the game. We had the game stolen from us. It's still a loss though, and it's hard to win with 3 turnovers. But I'm not too disappointed in their performance because I do think they played well. Based on their performance, I do think the Commanders are a playoff team. Jane Daniels was 19 of 26 for 211 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception, and a 119.2 passer rating. Despite the interception in our own territory and the fumble, despite those 2 plays, this might have been Jane Daniels' best game of the season. He ran well. He ran for 1st downs like he did last year. He made some great passes. He threw 3 touchdowns. He played well. What killed us was the 3 turnovers. It's a game that we really, really should have won, and it's going to really hurt us. But the important thing is, if we win and the Eagles lose, we get 1st place in the division. So we're still very much controlling our own destiny. It's going to be tough because after this, we play the Seahawks. Then we play the Lions and then the Chiefs and then the Dolphins. It's going to be a difficult couple-week stretch for us. So games like this against the Cowboys and games like we had with the Bears, we need to win against teams like this that we need to beat, right? But the Cowboys are going to be no walk in the park because the thing about the Cowboys is they're a very dangerous team. They're number 1 in the league in yards on offense, but they're also last in the league in yards allowed. So what I'm expecting is a shootout against the Cowboys. Dak Prescott was 25 of 34 for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns, a 124.8 passer rating. If the Cowboys were a little bit better, Dak Prescott would have MVP written all over him because he has been playing like an MVP, just like he did in 2023 when he led the league in passing touchdowns. He was 2nd in MVP voting, 2nd team All-Pro. He was playing like an MVP, and he's doing it again. So it's going to be very interesting here. And then George Pickens, 9 receptions, 168 yards, and a touchdown. He's coming in. CeeDee Lamb is coming in. This is going to be fireworks. Both teams have no problem scoring points. That's for darn sure. And I think Washington is going to score a lot of points. This is going to come down to the drives that end in field goals instead of touchdowns is really what's going to decide this game for us. It's on the road, but I am going to go with Washington. I have to go with my heart. They played like a playoff team against the Bears. If that fumble doesn't happen, we win the game. It's hard to, pin a loss on one play, but I'm going to. If that fumble doesn't happen, we win that game. It's as simple as that. So, I'm going to go with the Commanders, though. I think Jane Daniels, we're going to play our brand of football, which is holding on to the ball, keeping the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands, scoring when we have the ball, giving our defense rest so we can stop them. It's a must-win for us, though, because we have the Seahawks after that. They look super strong. We have the Lions. We have the Chiefs before our bye week. We have a lot of tough games after this. We need to win this game to save our season, and I mean that. I'm going to go with the Commanders, though. I think they're going to improve to 4-3. I'm crossing my fingers. I really hope they do. I'm going with Washington. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers at the Arizona Cardinals. The Packers are 3-1-1. They haven't looked great since their hot start in the first 2 weeks, but they are in first place in the NFC North. And they're going against a solid Cardinals team that is now 2-4. The Cardinals, I think, are a very mediocre team, but they can give a lot of these teams a hard shot. I'm going to be rooting for the Cardinals on this one, but I'm just going to be honest right now. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think the Packers are going to win. The Packers have a lot to prove, and they need to hold on to this division now that the Lions are in the wild card race. Josh Jacobs had a great game, 18 carries, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Love had a touchdown and an interception. It was a solid win for the Packers that they desperately needed after some lackluster performances. And they're going to beat the Cardinals because I just don't think that they're going to be able to make it happen. I don't know if Kyler Murray is still going to be out, but Jacoby Brissett played a great game for them, so I wouldn't rule out an upset even if Jacoby Brissett is playing. So I am going with the Packers. Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons at the San Francisco 49ers. This is what happens when your backup finally hits his ceiling, and that being Mac Jones. Mac Jones was 27 to 39, 347 yards, 2 interceptions, and a 75.5 passer rating. So it was fun while it lasted, but now it's time to bring back Brock Purdy. You're seeing what happens with a lot of these very solid backups is they'll play a couple good games, and then they'll kind of have their snap back to reality moment where they start having a bad one, and it's like, oh yeah, he's a backup for a reason, right? As for the Falcons, what a performance against the Bills on Monday night. This makes me not feel as bad for losing to them. Maybe the Falcons are a lot better of a team. They've been remarkably inconsistent, but when they're on, they're on. So listen to some of these numbers. Michael Penix was 20 of 32 for 250 yards and a touchdown, a 97.1 passer rating. Bijan Robinson, 19 carries, 170 rushing yards and a touchdown, an 81-yard rushing touchdown. Drake London, 18 receptions for 158 yards and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson had 238 yards from scrimmage, including the 68 receiving yards that he had. The Falcons are playing like we all kind of always thought they would with all the talent they have on offense. Like, we're seeing it happen now where they are really just wiping the floor with people. And a team like the Bills at home, that's a surprise, right? For that reason, I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think that if Brock Purdy doesn't come back, the 49ers are still so injured and they're still such an incomplete team that I think the Falcons can march into San Francisco and really do some damage and they can win. I'm going with the Falcons. Now we come to our Monday night game. This is going to be an incredible game right here. I cannot wait for this one. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. The Buccaneers are 5-1 and the Lions are 4-2. The Lions have played every single team they face tough. Their loss against the Chiefs, I don't think is one of these losses where it's like, oh, the Lions are in trouble or the Lions suck or they're not as good as we think they are. The Chiefs were just the better team. The Lions had no turnovers. They had some turnover on downs, but I wouldn't really panic about this loss too much. They didn't play badly per se. They were just beaten by the better team that day. Jared Goff, 23 of 29 for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns at 118.8 passer rating. So really impressive showing there by Jared Goff. Like I said, they're going to be just fine, but the same goes for Baker Mayfield. If the Eagles don't block a game-winning field goal by the Buccaneers are 6-0. And I think the Buccaneers right now are the general consensus #1 team in the league right now. Baker Mayfield is having an MVP caliber season, and I honestly think he is the MVP front runner right now. He's 17 of 23, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 139 passer rating. They took care of business against the San Francisco 49ers and won 30-19. Despite all the injuries they have, guys like Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, I don't think played. Despite all the injuries, they're still playing out of their minds. Baker Mayfield's playing out of his mind. And oh man, again, it's the same thing with the Lions and the Chiefs, right? These are back-to-back matchups for the Lions that are incredibly difficult. But I think Tampa's luck has run out. I think the Lions know they need to win this game. Falling to 4-3 is going to be very, very tough for them because you have teams like even the Panthers, if they win, they're 4-3. If the Commanders win, they're 4-3. So the Lions know that this is an important game to win. It's at home. It's prime time again. It's a must-win for them. I think they are going to dig deep and win. I really do. I think they're going to beat Tampa, and they are going to improve to 5-2, and that's a very, very much-needed win for them. I'm going with the Lions. It's going to be a great game. If you have some time, Monday at 7 p.m., go out of your way to watch this game. I'm going with the Lions. And then our next Monday night game starts at 10 p.m., so I won't be watching this one. We have the Houston Texans at the Seattle Seahawks. Both teams are coming off of wins. The Texans are coming off of a bye when they beat the Ravens 44-10. It was one of the more pitiful showings I've ever seen from the Ravens, like in history, in their entire franchise's history. It was a bad performance. C.J. Stroud was 23 of 27, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, 143.9 passer rating. That's exactly what you want. It was a commanding victory against the Ravens. The Texans' offense really hasn't been working very well throughout the season, but they did it against the Ravens. They have a lot of momentum coming in, and they're going against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm really hoping that the Seattle Seahawks don't look good in this game and they start to fade because we play them afterwards. We play them next week. I mean, they're going to be on a short week against us next week, but they took care of business against the Jaguars and looked very, very strong. The Sam Darnold was 16 of 27 for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns, a 121.7 passer rating, so a great showing by him. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba is really showing himself as a top 5 wide receiver in this league right now. He had 8 receptions for 162 yards and a touchdown. Statement game here by the Seahawks. I always thought that they were kind of like a middle of the road team, like a 9-8 team that barely misses out against the playoffs. But it's clear that Sam Darnold was an upgrade over Geno Smith, and they look really, really good. They are first place in their division right now. Actually, no, I take that back. I think the 49ers still are. And here's the playoff picture right here. Regardless, they are 4-2, and they are comfortably in either the wild card or the playoff race in general. So barring a huge fall off for them, I think that they could get into the playoffs this year. I think the Seahawks are too strong. I know the Texans are coming off of a bye, but I think that it's a home field game. The Texans are going to be jet lagged. I think they look very, very good. I'm going with the Seahawks. I think they will win. Yeah, they're going to improve to 5-2, and it's going to be tough for us to keep up with them in the wild card race. So that goes my prediction, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching. I kind of tried to blast through it as quickly as possible, get it under 30 minutes, so we'll see if I was able to do that. Please, Commanders, please beat the Cowboys. We need this win. We needed last week's win, and we were going to win. But we need this one more than anything. I'll see you guys next week for Week 8. Hopefully I have some good news to report back with the Commanders. I'll see you guys next week.